Hey there YouTubers, this is Matt, and I'll be showing a how-to guide for playing a whirlwind barbarian using a main hand axe or mace with a shield. I don't see many barbarians using shields rather than dual wielding and using a two-hander, so it's an easier way to break into a very fun class that's kind of expensive at the beginning, but here's a great way to play the spec, whether you're switching to a barbarian or you recently leveled up to 16, you don't have too much gold to spend into it. Another thing is I switch out to a healing axe, which I'll note later on in the video. I'm going to split this video up into 4 parts, which I'll annotate later for you to just read some extra facts, and I'll do time tags for you to switch between the sections as well. The first section will be the spec itself and the required stats to really make it viable to begin with. For just starting out, you're going to want to see what kind of skills you're going to use, and these are the ones you're going to want. Battle Rage with Into the Fray, Sprint with Run Like the Wind, Whirlwind with Hurricane, Thrive on Chaos from Wrath of the Berserker. Just going into those a little bit, the crits are going to keep your Fury generation really high, which will allow you to keep Wrath of the Berserker on perpetually, as you'll need to gain it. It says the 25 Fury to add a second to its timer. As you're running, you're going to have the tornadoes happen, and you'll always be running at maximum movement speed. So all those are very synergetic in the way they're acting with each other. When you're playing solo, I would suggest using Warcry, as you're probably having damage issues with your intake from Molten and Plague and Lightning affixes from the monsters. So just make sure you're keeping your resistances high and then adding that 20% from your Warcry. If you're in a party setting or playing with another barbarian, it might be better to go with Threatening Shout. The generation's a little bit better on the Fury end. As you see, you're getting 15 Fury every 10 seconds when you're using it, and it lasts for 15 seconds on the affected monsters. It's going to lower the damage by 20%, 15% of their attack speed as well if you go with Falter. If you just want to get more loot, you always could just use Grim Harvest, 15% chance at additional. The health globes is nice as well. It's going to vary your playstyle up quite a bit if you choose Frenzy with Maniac. I recently started doing this. I'd say wait before trying it out if you're starting with the spec. If you already are using the spec, definitely go for it. It's going to be a 20% damage boost, and from what I hear, the increased attack speed just in general affects your tornado ticks. So you'll have your tornadoes hitting faster, and you'll be doing more damage that way. But for starters, use Bash with Instigation. You're going to get the 8 Fury from the attack, 4 from the additional, and if you crit, you're going to get that 15 from that Battle Rage. So that'll be working really well. As I suggested earlier, it's maces or axes for the reason of this 10% crit. This build is pretty important and based around critting, as you're going to get that 15 additional rage for each time you crit. Ruthlessness will help out that as well. Let's give you some CHD, crit hit damage for extra damage. The third one you might want to play around a little bit. I've seen some players use Bloodthirst. I really wouldn't recommend it, as well as Nerves of Steel and Tough as Nails. You should be fine in the armor department. Elemental damage, if it's a problem, just reduce it by 20%, and then you have a chance to gain Fury as well. If you're having Fury problems, Animosity will help you out, and you'll possibly keep Wrath of the Berserker a lot easier with keeping that. So for starters, I'd say use Animosity, and the better you feel at playing the spec, or the better your gear gets. Maybe switch to Superstition, or if you're ballsy enough, go with Brawler, 30% flat damage, as long as you got 3 enemies around. So that covers the skills part. Let's take a look at gear. A lot of people won't say my axe is amazing or anything. It's really just a socket with increased attack speed. That set bonus is kind of nice, though. It's giving me an extra attack speed boost, as well as resist all, which is good in general. It looks pretty cool, as you can see. Kind of looks like Tyrael. The Hallowed Defender is always going to roll your resistance all and chance to block, so grab one with crit and strength would be nice. Big part of the spec, as I was saying earlier, is movement speed, as you're going to make tornadoes faster the faster you run. So you can grab that from boots, rings, bracers, other pieces, but these are the main ones you should maybe look at for starting out. Lacunae Prowlers are pretty cheap, especially if you grab ones with strength. They'll give you the increased attack speed, which is definitely going to help out your tornadoes. Movement speed for spawning them, and then the added strength will help. I use the Compass Rose and Traveler's Pledge. You might want to hold off on buying those, but it's a great way to get some health, as it'll give you the guaranteed life roll with the set bonus of crit hit damage increase and the 100 health. And both of them have Magic Find on it and the 12% run speed. Alright, for this spec it's pretty mandatory to use a leech belt. Make sure you're wearing a mighty belt and you're getting that life leech from it. Starting off, you're not going to really have the full Immortal King set, but it's something to strive towards, as it's going to give you that fury generation instead of it degenerating all the time. The 5-piece is good: the boots, chest, belts, head, and gloves. Gloves are actually a pretty easy pickup too. You can get low-end ones, maybe around 100 to 200,000, with high-end strength ones around like 160 strength for a little bit more, maybe around 400 or 500,000 range. Wards are also a nice pickup as well. You can get some high strength with nice Resol armor, life regen, all on the roll, so you don't have to worry about that too much. It's around 400 or 500,000. We'll cover those a little bit further on though in the auction part of the video. But your crit's coming from mainly your gloves, head, neck, and rings, and of course your shield's giving you that boost as well. So, with that said, we'll dive into the combat part of the video. Make sure you're always having Battle Rage up, because you're going to need the crits to fuel your Wrath of the Berserker. And I'll just keep running until I find some elites. And while you're playing this, it might be harder in the beginning to stay alive. Just make sure you're not getting hit by, like, succubuses and lowering your armor and standing and stuff. So, just testing out the damage, throwing out Wrath of Berserker. Make sure you're at your 5 stacks of Frenzy, and then what I normally do is I go up and down pretty much once each, if not twice, and then I stop and I fuel my Frenzy up again. I was standing in that Desecration a little bit, just testing out my health. But yeah, if your health ever dips, just switch to your Healing Axe. You should have no problems. You'll proc that 65% Ignore Pain from the Burning Axe of Sancus. And your health shouldn't even get much at all, if any. Just switch back to your damage one, get more damage. Just make sure you're keeping your 5 stacks of Frenzy, or if not, just keep Whirlwind and Really. A lot of players, when they're first starting out, really don't get the hang of this. One reason is because if you notice, I'll find a different target here. Let me find something with a little bit more health. Alright. Now as you can see, that got pushed off the screen, so it's not saying it's like traditional cooldown of being full. But whenever you're trying to get more time, if your Fury is full, you're never going to generate more because you can't generate once you have full. So you're going to want to spam your Sprint and your Battle Rage, which will lower your Fury bar, and then you'll be gaining it, so you'll get more time for your Wrath of the Berserker. So just keep an eye on that. If you're ever losing seconds but your Fury is always topped off, just make sure you're using Rage or Fury so you can get more Fury. That's one major cause why players lose their Wrath of Berserker in combat. Besides that, we'll take a look at the auctions and see how much this gear is going to cost you. The bigger pieces are going to run around 200 to 500,000, but everything else should be 100,000 or less, ideally. So going to the auction, something to start off with is the Burning Axe of Sancus. just have that pop up. I'd suggest getting it with Life Leech. And that'll really help you out for the beginning of this spec. Just search by damage. Just go through it, you find the first one that's affordable. You see some 200, this one's even only 60,000. It's not that much damage to start off with, but it'll start your spec and get you farming a lot easier. You'll be dying a lot less with this, guaranteed. As far as the shield goes, you can do the Hallowed Storm like I did, or just switch to offhands, shield, all res and crits. I'll be posting these values in the video as well, but just for the video's sake, let's see what this stuff's costing everybody. I always say start out at 40 resistances and then search more, like 60 or 70 even, just to see how much the minimum buyouts are. And then you're gonna grab some strength. See, it's not that much. As well as something I like to do, I gem Vitality, but I search Strength for most of my pieces of gear. And then I balance it out. Maybe another piece I'll get Life Percent. There's no really good example here, but I'll get Life Percent and Vit. That's what I was doing when I was starting out. So you'll see that's cheap. But if I wanted to, we can look for Life Percent and Vitality. So it's fairly low too, and it's a good way to balance out your stats. As you will need the, I didn't say this earlier, but you're going to need 24% run speed, 40% crit minimum, maybe like 50% recommended, about 30k health minimum, if not 40k, with 400 to 600 life on hit. So now that we looked at shields and main hand starting, we can move on to, let's say, boots. You're just going to want to search for the run speed, all resist at 40, the strength or vit combo, whichever one you're lacking at the current moment, with run speed, movement speed. So you can search for those. It's not going to be too bad. Say like 100 strength. A little expensive if you do it that way, but you can find cheap pieces and just balance out your gear otherwise. One of the important parts I said was that belt with leech. So you can go with life steal and then life leech. And you can get that pretty cheap as well. So you'll see a belt with some pretty good stats just going for 20k. The Kunai Prowlers is just going to make or break this build at the beginning. So let's search up some of those for strength. 50k. So still staying pretty cheap here. You can buy most of these just with gold pickups and vendoring items. We'll move on to pants and chest. Just for the sake of the video, I'm just going to search up chest. It's the same thing that you need for both. Chest armor, go for strength or vit life percent, whichever one you're lacking. 40 or 60 all resistance with sockets 3 for chest, and it'd be 2 sockets for pants when you're searching them. But as you can see, you could do that, or you could do vitality and life percent, and they're still staying in cheap ranges. That'll cover the chest and pants for those. As far as your helm, you're going to want to go with 5% crit, because 6 is cap, and 1 socket to throw an EXP in there and see what it's like with life percent. So even with life percent, you can get a pretty good helm for fairly cheap, or if not, even way cheaper. After that, Vow Wards and Immortal Kings will go for around 500,000 each, unless you catch them at a good time. Sometimes you could do bids, so you can get them a little bit cheaper. Immortal King Irons will go for, survey says 144,000, so that'll be your low-end strengths, probably around 400 to 500 for a little bit more strength. 150, yeah, about 400,000. So that's not too bad. So we covered all these pieces just down to rings and neck. For your rings, you're going to want to get crit around 3.5. And life on hits would be nice to throw in with all res around 40 to 60. So you get some fairly cheap ones around 100,000. And then for neck, it's pretty much the same stats, except you're going to bring your crit up to 8 because 10's cap. And maybe put a search requirement of 600. Maybe not. Let's try 400. 400, we're getting one a little bit cheaper. You always could lower your crit to maybe say like 7. And just fool around with the stats just to find something a little bit more ideal. But between all that, you're not really running too much. From what we found, it'd be maybe 100, 200, 300, going around like anywhere between 1 to 2 million for your whole gear set, which really isn't too bad for starting out. You can find most yellows, and after a days of farming, have that much gold, just even from gold drops and vendoring items. But that gives you an idea of what you're going to need for a whirlwind barbarian using a main hands of an axe or mace with a shield to bring your crit up, to also give you, the extra bonus armor and resistances, help out with survivability. And then if you're really having trouble staying alive, the burning axe of Sancus will be your ace in the hole for staying alive and just chugging through that damage. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Post comments and let me know what you guys think about it. Maybe I'll make some more about efficient ways of key farming and such. But let me know if you want anything else. Thanks. Matt out.